And welcome back to the First and Goal podcast. My name is Laraib, and next to me is my beautiful co-host Lewis. And we are here for week one of the 2024 NFL season. Lewis, how are we doing?
We are doing excellent today, Laraib. It is time, finally, where we're getting into week one of the NFL season. Like we've said in the previous two episodes that we've done in our season previews, it has been a long off season, but we are finally here as we are filming this on Tuesday. So we are 2 days away from the start of the NFL season. Still so much stuff to get into, and we will be breaking down all 16 games from this week one NFL slate, Laraib. I'm so excited to be back with you here for another season. We're, kind of do our same things we did before: locks, upsets, best bets of the week. And I'm just excited to get into it, you, Laraib.
Yeah, and I think this is our fifth or fourth season doing this podcast, and every single year we've just been continuing to build on the success from last year. So thank you guys who've been supporting us along this journey. And then, of course, we already had David Storm come on, the PA announcer for the Saints. So if you want to come on early season, give us your take for your team, just go ahead and reach out to one of us or leave a comment down below, Lewis. But I think without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into Thursday night football with the Baltimore Ravens traveling to Kansas City to play in Arrowhead Stadium, and the Chiefs favored by 3 at home. Who are you taking in this one?
Laraib, I'm just going to go ahead and rip the bandage off. I think last year the season started like it's going to this year in Kansas City, where we saw this young, promising Detroit Lions team topple the Chiefs in week one. And we were sitting here like, oh, what the heck is going on with the Chiefs? No Travis Kelce in week one. He was dealing with an injury. Chris Jones wasn't there with some contract disputes. And it was just all in turmoil after that loss. But then we're sitting here towards the end of the season with these question marks about the Chiefs. Like, oh my gosh, like what's going to happen this postseason? And they end up, as inevitably as they always do, being there at the final moments in the final games with the quarterback and the coach who trust the most. And that's Andy Reid and that's Patrick Mahomes. So going into this season, going in to look for their three championships in a row. They start the season off against Baltimore, the team who a lot of people thought, including yourself, was going to beat Kansas City in that AFC championship last year. So there's a lot on stake here for the Ravens. Whereas the Chiefs, they know they can afford to lose week one and still make the AFC championship. They did it last year. So I think that's going to be a huge statement here for the Ravens if they're able to get it done. But I think, the Chiefs, after losing last year, going on that quest for a three-peat, want to get this started because a win here, it's not like the Lions with an NFC opponent. They understand this game means a lot for the final standings later in the season for the AFC. So I think the Chiefs, they really lock in here and not going too much into X's and O's right now. I'll let you kind of handle that. But I just have a feeling the Chiefs are going to take this a lot more seriously than they did perhaps last year. And they're going to come out with an elite level of focus, Laraib.
Well, Lewis, I just think back to last time these two teams played, and one team got significantly worse and one team got a little bit better. And the team that got way worse was the Baltimore Ravens. Of course, the big thing was, oh yeah, we signed Derrick Henry. Yeah, we're gonna beat the Chiefs this time. Let's talk about the guys that they lost: to Jadeveon Clowney, Ronald Darby, Sam Mustipher, their starting center, Devin Duvernay, J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, Morgan Moses, starting offensive lineman, Patrick Queen, John Simpson, another offensive lineman, Geno Stone, Brock Yassin, Kevin Zeitler, another starting offensive lineman. They lost massive pieces on both sides of the ball. And then the bigger thing, Mike McDonald is no longer the defensive coach on that side. They just lost so many pieces, Lewis. I don't see a way that they win this game unless it's a Herculean performance from Lamar Jackson and 50-year-old Derrick Henry. I just think the Chiefs, even with Hollywood Brown out in this one, they had a lot of controversy, like you mentioned, going into last season. There's none of that in the building this year, and I think they're going to come out with some firepower in opening night.
Yeah, and when you think of a team, like what could possibly prevent a team from going on a three-peat and sustaining success for year on year and year's end? The things would be apathy, injuries, and just overall fatigue. Well, it's week one, and they only have one guy with any significant injury, and that's Marquise Brown, which they didn't have him last year. So that's not really a loss for them. And then, apathy. This is week one. You were excited to play week one at home on the ring opening night. And then you have the final thing It's just like, where are we going from here? You have a long offseason that to prepare for this game. And then you mentioned it. There's so much turmoil on that Baltimore side. They're going to need time to figure things out. It would really impress me if Baltimore found a way to win this game, but I'm going with the Chiefs here, Laraib. I just think they're better suited early on in the season to make bigger waves. So I'm going with the Chiefs in this one. I'm going to go say it's a little lower scoring than predicted just because that's usually how things go in the beginning of the season. So I'm going to go Chiefs 26, Ravens 18.
I'm gonna agree with you. I think it's a lower scoring game. We saw last season a little bit of a trend was that these primetime games usually went and hit on those unders. So I'm predicting the under in this one. A little sneak peek to my best bet of the week. But I think Todd Monken in year 2 with Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews can keep this game a little bit closer. But I still think the Chiefs come out on top 23-20.
All right, Laraib, let's move on to our first ever Friday night opening weekend game in Brazil. The Green Bay Packers are playing the Philadelphia Eagles, technically a home game for the Eagles. Unfortunate for them. Eagles favored by 3 on the neutral site, Laraib. And for this game, you mentioned a lot about, man, the Ravens, like, oh, you had Derrick Henry. What a great offseason. When really you lost a lot more of the more essential pieces to your football team. That's kind of my opinion on the Philadelphia Eagles this season, Laura, because, oh, wow, we brought in huge splash. Saquon Barkley, he's going to change up so many things. Well, you got rid of both your offensive and defense coordinators. Now, well, you can argue that, Kellen Moore on the offensive side, and remind me his name from the Chargers or from the Dolphins defensive coordinator. I can't think of his name right now, but another defensive coordinator addition. You can argue that this will bring new juice to the team. And it's like that's something that's huge changes brought into a team that at the tail end of last season completely fell apart. Whereas tale of two halves, the Packers were really struggling in the beginning of the season, and then they hit their stride towards the end. They retained most of their staff. They only added, and you could argue the Philadelphia Eagles lost their best player in Jason Kelce due to retirement. He was still playing as their best offensive player, their leader, the guy who called out the protections, probably the most essential part to the most game-breaking play that they had in the tush push. So it's really hard for me to evaluate this Philadelphia Eagles team. It's what do I know? It's hard to see where this team's going at. Meanwhile, with the Packers, now you can say Jordan Love, first full season, game 1. Are we really sold on him? But against this Philadelphia secondary that I still really am not a fan of, you lose Hassan Reddick, bring in Bryce Huff, which I think is a downgrade. And overall, this defense just still has way too many question marks for me on that side of the ball to where I'm confident in picking them this game. So I'm telling you right now, Laraib, I have a slight lean Green Bay in this neutral site game. What say you?
Yeah, you brought up a lot of great points, and this game should feel like a pick 'em, but I'm gonna go with the Philadelphia Eagles. The defensive coordinator that you couldn't remember, Lewis, his name is Vic Fangio, a
Right.
historically great defensive coordinator in the NFL. And I think he comes in and he really ignites his front seven for the Eagles, which really didn't generate that much pressure on the quarterback last year. Now, I have to agree with you that that secondary for the Eagles is still going to be Swiss cheese with James Bradbury out there. And we'll see what Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean can do in that secondary later on in the season. But with James Bradbury out there, I think these two teams are going to be airing out. But the big thing is this game being played in Brazil. And now I've seen a lot of these quotes from these players, whether this is just hyped up from the media or not, just about the conditions that they're going into. I've seen just these quotes from these players saying, I'm just going to be in my room. I'm really not going to be going out. This is sort of just a business trip thing. I'm kind of scared to be in Brazil. And this is just adding another element to the game. I think both of these teams are really going to be running the ball heavily, trying to take the pressure off their quarterbacks early. And we'll see. I think I trust this Eagles offensive line a little bit more than I do this Packers. And I think the Eagles win by 2 points, 23-21.
Well, I agree. I think it will be a close game. And I just trust this Packers defense to be a little more impactful than the Eagles defense. And I think Jordan Love builds on that momentum that he ended last season with a big performance here. I'm going Packers 30 to Eagles 21, Laraib. I think it's going to be an emphatic week 1 statement here in Brazil. But let's go ahead and move on to Sunday, our first full slate of Sunday games, Laraib. where we will start with the Arizona Cardinals. Yes, the Cardinals are making our top games. Just a reminder, we're doing our top 8 games going into in-depth in these, and then we'll do the rest of the games kind of in a quicker fashion. But yeah, the Arizona Cardinals going into Buffalo to play the Buffalo Bills. The line is set at Bills minus 6 points here, Laraib. And I was, a lot of people are really down on this Bills offseason. You lost a lot of guys in the secondary. Obviously, Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, Tre'Davious White. Matt Milano goes down in training camp. Our guy, huge loss. It was just heartbreaking to hear that. But I liked what they were able to do offensively at the end of last year. They bring Joe Brady in as the offensive coordinator, and he establishes the run game, gets James Cook more involved, gets the tight ends more involved, really goes away from putting so much on Josh Allen's shoulders. And I think that was just a recipe for success in the NFL in the postseason. That is how, because Josh Allen can still do great things, but allow his playmakers to make more plays. Obviously, losing Diggs and Gabe Davis on the outside is tough, but I believe in guys like Khalil Shakir and Curtis Samuel to make plays when it's needed. Keon Coleman as well on the outside. And against this Cardinals defense, where it's hard to name anyone on this defense. They bring in some young guys in the draft, some good defensive linemen. But Jonathan Gannon in this group, I think he's a good defensive coach. But going into Buffalo to play Josh Allen week 1, it's an extremely tough draw. And I think this Bills offense is going to play good ball control offense, keep the ball away from Kyler, and that, could be very exciting offense. And I think they're going to go away with this one.
Yeah, the big thing in this game, Lewis, is going to be that new look Bills offense and defense. Like I mentioned, all the players that they missed, we'll see what defensive-minded head coach Sean McDermott is going to be able to plan up. They still have a lot of good guys on the defensive line in particular. And then we'll see on the other side of the ball, it's Kyler Murray and it's Marvin Harrison Jr. This guy is being touted as one of the best wide receiver prospects of all time. And I think as bad as this Cardinals defense is going to be all season long, I'm a true believer in Kyler Murray and his fantasy production this season. I think, this offense has a potential to be, dare I say, top 5 in the NFL. I think healthy Kyler Murray is going to put on a show, especially with this new Black Ops 6 game coming out. I think he's going to be really into the game with all that Omni movement, and we're going to see some of that from him on the field this year with Marvin Harrison Jr. and Trey McBride. I'm in on this Cardinals offense, but I'm out on that defense. I think the Bills win 27-24 as they're still trying to get used to their new system. But Josh Allen, I'm a huge believer in him this year, and he's going to make some noise and silence a lot of the doubters.
Right, and I agree. I mean, I'm going Bills here. I think the Bills do cover in this game, so I have the Bills winning 30-20 in this ball game. I just think there's going to be some mistakes, some jitters with Kyler Murray. Even though I am excited about him this offseason, what he's going to be able to do. I just think on the road at Buffalo week 1 is just a tough draw. I think it will be a good performance that's going to build for this Cardinals team, but as of now, this could be a very exciting game, Rob. This could be a high-scoring game. But from what I know Josh Allen's going to ball out. I know he's going to be a stud. So give me the Buffalo Bills.
All right, let's move on to another game in the 12 o'clock slate, a divisional showdown between the Houston Texans and the Indianapolis Colts. Texans favored by 3 on the road, Lewis. And as a half Texans fan, I will tell you that this Texans team is going to be silencing a lot of doubters and propping up a lot of people trying to make some money on CJ Stroud this year as an MVP candidate. Now, on the other side of this ball, or other side of this coin, we have Anthony Richardson and Shane Steichen. And I think this is going to be a sneaky high-scoring game from both these teams. I like this Texans defense, Lewis, but it's going to take some time for them to gel, especially with Danielle Hunter coming in. They lose our guy, Blake Cashman. It's going to take a little bit of time for them. And I think Anthony Richardson, he's going to have a lot of weapons to him, especially Adonai Mitchell being able to stretch that field. But I think the Texans pull off the win on the road.
Yeah, whenever I was going through picking all these games before the season, I like doing a full schedule breakdown, going win-loss, win-loss, win-loss. It's hard to look at this game and be like, the Colts are at home. And if you think the Colts are going to be a good team this year, they need to split with the Texans. So you win the game at home, right? But it's just tough looking at this game. The Colts, fun fact, in their last 10 season openers, their record is 0-9-1 They have not won a season opener in over 10 seasons, Laraib. And now, at home against the Texans, it's a tough, I'm not going to say tough draw because it's a divisional opponent early. And if there's any time you want to get a divisional opponent, it's early. Get that game out of the way, knock them out. So then down the season, then you can start preparing. And there's things I like about what this Colts team is. I love Shane Steichen as an offensive coach, coordinator. I love what he's able to do for Anthony Richardson. And guess what? We have a healthy Anthony Richardson who was ecstatic, exciting last year, going into a lot of these games. Can he stay healthy? Like you said, I think this Texans defense, especially their front seven, is going to need time to really gel to figure out each other as a unit. Whereas this Colts offensive line, they revamped. They look like the unit from 3 years ago with Jonathan Taylor in the backfield. I think the Colts run the ball, play a ball possession game, get a lot of rushing touchdown, a lot of rushing action in this game. And I think the Colts silence a lot of this superb hype from the Texans maniacs, as you call yourself, Laraib. And I'm going with the Colts and A-Rich in this game here. Give me the Colts. I think they have a very ball control, control the clock, score efficiently. I'm saying 28 to Texans 24, Laraib.
I'm gonna go ahead and go the other way. I believe in Shane Steichen. You saw a lot of the different things that he can scheme up. Just his brain trust is what took that Eagles team to the Super Bowl. A lot of people say that, but I think that it's just Anthony Richardson. He has the talent. Raw was what the biggest name was on him being drafted, and I think it's still Raw. He's going to show some flashes in this game, but it's just going to be one bad throw that's going to lead to an interception that probably is going to cost him this game. I like the Texans at 27 to 26.
All right, well, we both agree it's going to be a close, fun divisional game, all a part of this really jam-packed 12 o'clock slot. But don't worry, the NFL, they said, hey, we're no longer giving you only 2 late afternoon windows. It's at least going to be 3. So thank God for that, because if you're a long time listener to the podcast, what one of my biggest pet peeves are, and it's these freaking in-game early windows that I just love to watch. Anyway, going to another awesome noon game. We have the Jacksonville Jaguars traveling to Miami, a inter-Florida matchup. Miami favored by 3.5 in Laraib. It's going to be hot in Miami. It only says the game's slated for 85 degrees, but 140% humidity on game day. And now you could say, well, what is that? The Jags are from Florida. That's not going to affect it. But we could see some bad, sloppy defense, could see some mistakes in this game. And that makes me favor the Miami Dolphins, because if there's any team that can force a defense to make mistakes, miss tackles, and get out in space, it's this Miami Dolphins team, especially week 1. Not a lot of injuries going into the season right now. Jalen Waddle's a little questionable, but he should be able to play in this game. But just all the speed, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane, Raheem Mostert, Jalen Wright. If you know, you know. I just think this is one of those classic Miami September games where they put up a ton of points, and this is a high-scoring game from both teams, and they look super impressive on offense, but we're still sitting here saying, show it to us in December, show it to us in January. But I think they keep their identity of being this high-flying, fast team, and I think the Jags, I like a lot of their defensive pieces, but I don't think they're at that level yet, and the secondary, I just don't quite trust enough. So I do like the Miami Dolphins in this ball game, Laura.
I have to agree, Lewis. And in this game, we have 2 quarterbacks who got paid this offseason a lot of money, and the losing quarterbacks can have a lot of pressure thrown at them right after this game. But I agree with you. This Dolphins team is going to come out. We saw them last year do a lot of that cheat motion, and they're going to do it again this year. And we saw Jonnu Smith, the tight end, be incorporated in a lot of that this year. Now with 3 speedsters at running back, it's just going to be guys moving all over the field this year with Mike McDaniel. And Lewis, in his first 2 seasons as a head coach, he's gone 3-0 and 3-0 in his first 2 seasons. And I'm thinking he's going to be 1-0 in this one. And -3, Lewis, I think that is an extremely low line for this Dolphins team, who's won their first couple games by 13+ points. Those 3-0 starts by Mike McDaniel's, 13-point victories in most of those games. And so I'm going to pick the Dolphins 34-24 as they knock the socks off this Jacksonville Jaguars team.
Yeah, Laraib, I'm going to go a little more high scoring than that. I think this Dolphins team is going to be on one in this ball game. I think Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars will have a good ball game. I think Brian Thomas is going to get loose a few times and make some fantasy owners regret not drafting him. But I do have the Dolphins winning this game 42-31. It's going to be a really exciting. It's not going to feel that close. I guarantee it's going to be 42-17 with some cheap touchdowns at the end. But I think the Dolphins easily win this game, and a lot of questions will be arisen in Jacksonville. But let's go ahead and move on to the 3 o'clock slate, starting off with America's Game of the Week on Fox. The Dallas Cowboys traveling to Cleveland to face the Browns. Interesting choice, but I think it's a very exciting game, not only for what's going on the field, but as we remarked in our first episode of this season, Tom Brady joining the booth for this game in his broadcasting debut. A really exciting game to watch here. As I said, Browns favored by 2.5 points at home, Laraib. What are you feeling?
I mean, I honestly don't know what to feel. I mean, 2.5 points is a lot for a Browns team when their biggest quarterback or question on their team is their quarterback. How much do you believe in Deshaun Watson to be able to deliver the ball to Amari Cooper and Jerry Jeudy? And how much do you believe in Jerome Ford replacing Nick Chubb, at least for the first quarter of the season, against this Cowboys high-flying offense? We saw Mike McCarthy say last season, screw it, Dak. CeeDee Lamb is down there somewhere, and they were just airing that thing out. Faux shizzy. Now, Brandon Cooks gets a year older, but still, CeeDee Lamb, approaching his prime. Jake Ferguson approaching his prime. Just a lot of young pieces now. Definitely not going to be able to run the ball with Ezekiel Elliott and Rico Dowdle. But how much can you depend on Dak Prescott and Mike McCarthy in a contract year versus Deshaun Watson and his $120 million guaranteed?
Yeah, that's a fair way to look at it. This is a very intriguing game for me because going in the first episode, I was talking about what things do I know are going to cross over season by season, and that's quarterback play and trench play. And quarterback play, Dak Prescott, as I would definitely argue, and everyone, I think every football fan would say, he is a better quarterback than Deshaun Watson. There's no debate about that. But there's these looming questions. You got something to say? Okay, cool. But there's these looming questions about, his contract that's going to be hanging over him. And as of Tuesday, September 3rd, 3:42 p.m., nothing has been settled with Dak Prescott. And I honestly don't anticipate anything coming down for until Sunday. And he's just going to have this black cloud hanging above his head with an offensive line that suffered major losses this offseason. You lose Tyron Smith, future Hall of Fame left tackle, and just, you lose Biotish in the middle. There's just a lot of new pieces on the offensive line going to Cleveland to face that defensive line, which is just filled with studs all across the board. Just not an easy task to go into, especially without really a running game. You didn't address that at all. I do not care that Ezekiel Elliott's back. He is not the Ezekiel Elliott that we once knew and loved. And no, don't even give me that. And I think defensively, the Cowboys, no Duron Bland. I think if the Browns will be able to run the ball, this can be a low-scoring game in my opinion. But I think the Browns just have less margin for error. I don't think Deshaun Watson's going to put the ball in harm's way. I think Jerome Ford's going to be able to take crucial yards against this porous Cowboys rush defense that, guess what? They did nothing to really address in the offseason. So I think the Browns make a statement in week 1, beat the Cowboys, and all of a sudden it's chaos in Jerry world as the Cleveland Browns take the Cowboys to Pound Town. I'm saying Browns win 20-16.
And I'm leaning the other way. I think Dak Prescott, he's going to be the one to go out there and show Jerry Jones why he deserves that money. And they're going to win this game. I agree with you. This is going to be a very tight, low-scoring game. It's going to be nasty. It's going to be dirty for Tom Brady's first broadcasting game, and I'm going to be there for every second of it. But I think Dak Prescott pulls this one out. Jake Ferguson, late touchdown to give the Cowboys a lead 21-20 as they pull off the upset in Cleveland.
Well, when you put it that way, Laraib, it's kind of hard. Jake Ferguson might go off for 3 touchdowns, but that's neither here nor there. Let's go ahead now and move to Sunday Night Football, Laraib. One of the most exciting games of all last season was when the Detroit Lions hosted the Rams in that playoff game, and now we have it again in week 1. Rams hosting the Lions. Detroit favored by 3.5 here, Laraib. The Lions are the offseason darling of every single football podcast, media story, anything. If you want to go against the San Francisco 49ers' weird offseason and choosing a pick for the NFC, the Lions seem like the team that they almost were there last year. They could taste it, but it wasn't like quite a hangover as like maybe the 49ers went through. They brought back a lot of their guys, structured Jared Goff, Anra, Penei Sewell. They got all their guys signed quickly. They made sure they were rolling into this season. Good training camp. These guys are on point. Meanwhile, you have a Rams team coming in, Matthew Stafford, going back to Detroit. We saw it almost pulled off the upset in the playoffs last season, but couldn't quite pull it through. The biggest loss in the entire offseason, I think we can both agree, was Aaron Donald retiring from football. Again, would you like to? Okay. That was obviously the biggest loss. And compounding that, you lose Raheem Morris, standout defensive coordinator who takes the head coaching job in Atlanta. So I think this game is going to be tough on this Rams defense. You had these two rookies from Florida State, Brandon Fisk and Jared Verse, and against this Lions offensive line, I just can't see how they're going to be able to get consistent enough of a pass rush, and it's just going to be really tough for them to stop this Lions offense. And then on the other side of the ball, I just love what the Lions are able to do defensively. I think getting those corners and Terry and Arnold and this Rakestraw in the draft really beef up that secondary. And Puka Nacua, we're not too sure of with injury. I just think there's too many questions on the Rams side, whereas the Lions are humming. They're a good program, and I think they're going to come out focused week one and a packed Detroit Ford Field. Give me the Lions in this one, Laraib.
And I am leaning the exact opposite. I think Matthew Stafford marches into Detroit and finally gets his revenge. Let me talk about this Rams team a little bit from last season. When Puka, Cooper Kupp, Kyron Williams, and Matthew Stafford were all playing, they were 6-2. This offense was humming at an extreme level. And now they're going to go into Detroit week one. Like you said, this Lions team is flying high, Lewis. And what happens when you fly way too high? You got to come down at some point. Now, I'm still all in on this Lions team. I like what they did. I like what they did. They're going to be great this season. I still like them to win their division. But Dan Campbell is due. He's due every game to make a stupid decision, and it's going to be in this game. He's going to go for it on fourth down somewhere where he shouldn't, when he should have taken his 3. Matthew Stafford marches down the field, game-winning field goal by their kicker, and they win 33-30 in the game of the week on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, Laraib, I think this is I can't disagree with you more. I think this is just a talent mismatch. And although I think the Lions could put up points, although the Rams could put up points, it's not going to be anywhere near the caliber that the Lions were going to do it. I think the Lions win this game 36 to Rams 28 in this ball game, Laraib. I think it'll be a fun, exciting game, but the Lions are taking care of business and moving on, as we are to Monday Night Football, final game of this week one slate that we are going to be highlighting. We'll go through the rest of the games, don't worry. But we had the New York Jets traveling to San Francisco, -4.5 for the 49ers, Laraib. This is just a game of the unknowns. Because what a crazy offseason for both teams. Just all the Aaron Rodgers drama that's always going to be there. And the 49ers, you had the Brandon Ayuk drama, the Trent Williams stuff. Brock Purdy, he hasn't gotten his extension yet. There's still questions about McCaffrey, had a little bit of an injury entering the season. And this is just such an exciting game narrative-wise, because I think both these teams are going to be very good this season. And I'm so happy that we were able to film this after the Trent Williams news, because if Trent Williams wasn't playing in this game, there was a really good shot that I may have gone crazy picking this game. But knowing he's going to be there now, in what condition is he going to be in? That's a question. But he's a veteran. He's a guy who knows his body and knows how to take care of it at this point. So I think he's going to be locked in and ready for week one, especially against this tough Jets defense. But I just trust the 49ers more. I trust their personnel a lot more. You have Robert Saleh, excuse me, for the Jets. Obviously, he's kind of familiar with Shanahan and his scheme. But at the same time, Shanahan's familiar with Robert Saleh. now in San Francisco. Aaron Rodgers home. I think the 49ers are just more talented across the board. I'm excited about these new pieces on the Jets offense that we were robbed from seeing last year with no Aaron Rodgers. But I think that it's just too much familiarity. They need to figure it out. That I don't trust them going to San Francisco and toppling the NFC champion. So I lean San Fran here, Laura.
This is a classic week one upset right here. And I don't know how it couldn't be any more clear to you. We see this every year on a primetime game. Some team is favored by 3 or more points, and they just stink it up. And I think that's what this 49ers team is going to do this year. Like you mentioned, Brandon Ayuk didn't get a lot of practice the last couple of weeks. Now he's a professional football player. Will that really matter that much? Probably not. Same thing with Trent Williams. With all this just stuff going on in the building,
Bad
I
vibes,
think
weird vibes.
I think Aaron Rodgers, who I don't know, I don't think he's ever beaten the 49ers in his career, but we know he's had this damn game circled on his calendar since it was announced. He hates this 49ers team, and I think this is the year he gets it done. A lot of my picks this week have been on just superstition and just, conspiracy and just, wish-wash what's going to happen. This is the one I feel the best about. I think Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, that revamped offensive line marches into San Francisco and hands this 49ers team a loss, who I think are due for a bad year. I think the Jets win 23-20.
As exciting and as much as I'm kind of rooting for that outcome, Laura, I have to trust Shanahan. I know that he's a professional. He treats everything as professionally as possible. I know the rest of these guys, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, they've been ready. They've been locked in all offseason long. You still have Fred Warner in the middle. You still have Diamador Lenore and Travarius Ward in the back end. I mean, you bring in Leonard Floyd in the defensive line, even though you lose Chase Young, who's going to have 20 sacks for the Saints this year. But it's just hard for me to go against. I haven't seen Aaron Rodgers play meaningful football in 2 years. And to pick him on the road against the reigning NFC champion is just something I can't do. I'm sorry. As much as I think it would be super exciting, I have to go with the 49ers here. I'm going to go 49ers 27, Jets 17 in this ball game, Laura.
I am calling it right now on the First and Goal podcast. The New York Football Jets will have the number 1 overall defense this year in the National Football League. And it is always going to start right here when they sack Brock Purdy 5 times opening night and lay the boom on Kyle Shanahan on his 49ers.
We'll get to that number 1 overall defense, Laraib. Don't you worry. Because the next game, so those are our highlighted games of the week. With games we've tried to spend the most time on because we think they're the most interesting. Now we're going to rip through the rest of the games, giving them a certain spotlight, starting with my New Orleans Saints hosting the Carolina Panthers in the Dome. I'm not, you could call me a pessimistic Saints fan. You can say you think the world's burning. It'll never be good. If there's a game on this damn schedule that the Saints need to win, it is this game. Panthers at home, new coach, Bryce Young, new offensive line. This is the freaking game to win. You get them at the best time in your building. Week 1, the fans still have hope. The fans are still excited. Just go out there, take care of business, and then go into week 2. No excuses. Saints win dominant, 31 to Panthers 16.
I have to agree with you, Lewis. If the Saints lose this game,
oh, you won't hear
it. You are going to see a lot of Saints season tickets open up for sale, 50% off on that website.
Hold up.
No, these Saints need this game. Dennis Allen is one of the head coaches who's already on the hot seat, and a game has not even been played. The Saints need this game really bad, and I agree with you. They win big time, 21-10.
All right, Laraib, well, let's go ahead and move on to our next game. We have the Steelers traveling to Atlanta to face the new look Atlanta Falcons. Falcons minus 3.5 in this game. Laraib, this is Kirk Cousins' first game coming off an Achilles injury, and to go up against this ferocious Steelers defense, even though it's in Atlanta, and Atlanta might be hyped, they might be like, oh, this is our season, dirty birds, whatever, we love mud. I don't know, whatever they say in Atlanta, the dirty birds.
Galaxy gas.
There is one team in the NFL that travels like no other, and that is the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I've seen that damn Mercedes Stadium with a lot of terrible towels flying through. And although I don't love the Steelers quarterback situation, they still have the best defense in the NFL. And they have Mike Tomlin, who wins games like these on the road. Everyone's rooting for the Steelers to fail. Steelers get a huge win here and a low scoring game. I'm saying Steelers 20 to Falcons 10.
Yeah, you know those people who are rooting for the Steelers to fail? That's me right here. They are not having a winning season this year with Mr. Let's ride Steelers country, let's ride. Hell no. Now I agree with you. Kirk Cousins coming off the Achilles. I'm gonna say this is a 16-13 game just because just two offenses who are not gonna be ready for week one. But I think Kirk Cousins and Bijan Robinson, huge game from Bijan Robinson in this one, pull off the victory at home, 16-13.
I mean, I could see Drake London with 200 yards, but that's about it, you know. Anyway, let's move on. We have the debut of Mr. Magic himself, Caleb Williams, hosting the Tennessee Titans, Bears by 3.5. Laraib, what are you feeling?
I told y'all in our first episode, Will the freaking thrill. He is coming out and he is showing out, Lewis. Let me tell you. Let me start off with this fact for you, little tidbit
Fact.
for you. Tidbit fact right here. Since 2003, number one overall quarterbacks in their debut are 14-1. And so unless you're picking this team, unless you're picking this to be a tie, Lewis, I'm picking Calvin Ridley, I'm picking Tajay Spears, I'm picking Tyler Boyd, and I'm picking Will the Thrill to win in Chicago 24-21.
There has been no number one overall pick like Caleb Williams since 2003.
Since Trevor Lawrence.
And
he's Andrew Luck.
He's been in the best system. He's been in a much better situation football than those guys ever were. And he's going to put it on display. Great defense from I think the offense is going to be a little sketchy. I don't think he's going to have a great opening game. But thank God Will Levis on the other side of the field. And you have a great secondary of the Bears. I love their defense. I think the Bears win this game 23 to Titans 18, Laraib. But let's go ahead and move on to our next game. We do have the Patriots traveling to Cincinnati to play the Cincinnati Bengals. Laraib, Patriots are on. Laraib, wake up.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Patriots are 8.5-point underdogs to the Bengals. I'm going to keep it short and sweet here. No Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase doesn't matter. The Bengals should be able to take care of business. The Patriots don't have talent. And I know this will be clipped and thrown back in my face, or at least that would be pretty cool if it did, because that means we have people who clip our stuff besides Nathan, which he doesn't get this far in the video. But I like the Bengals got to take care of business. I'm going Bengals 33, Patriots 13.
There is a world where Joe Burrow comes out like his usual self in the first 4 weeks and plays like hot garbage. This is not one of those timelines. We are still on Earth 318 or 316 or whatever. They knocked the socks off this bad Patriots team with a horrible quarterback in Jacoby Brissett. I just don't understand what this Pats team is trying to do on either side of the ball. Give me the Bengals 31-10.
All right, well, let's go ahead and move on to our final noon game. We had the Minnesota Vikings traveling to New York to face the New York Giants. God, this is like, it's week one and we're already having these ugly games, huh? Look, I'm going with the Giants here. I mean, the Vikings. Excuse me. Going with the Vikings here. There's just more talent offensively. I really like what they were able to do defensively. They bring in our guy, Blake Cashman, to invigorate that defense. Justin Jefferson. I think Sam Darnold just needs to play decent. I don't love the Vikings running game. Aaron Jones, I don't know what I'm going to get out of him, but he is an older running back. So week one, hopefully he'll have the most tread on his tires for this game. This Giants defense, they have a great defensive line. So if they're able just to cause a ton of pressure, a ton of havoc, get Sam Darnold seeing ghosts in MetLife, where we know he's seen them before, that could cause some trouble if the Giants didn't have Daniel Jones also seeing those same ghosts, probably at the same time watching him. Like, whoa, what is he doing out there? I'm going with the Vikings in this game. It could be a fun, exciting game, but I'm going to predict it's not. I'm going to go Vikings 13, Giants 6.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I mean, you got to pick the lesser of two evils in this one. And I think that's Justin Jefferson. Sam Darnold, you just got to throw within his 20 feet catch radius, and he'll probably come down with it. And he's going to be the reason why the Vikings win this game. I'm going to say it's a 17-16 game just because I don't know what the hell's going to happen in this one. So I say the Vikings win by 1 point.
Okay, so you still have the Giants covering. I like that. Now let's go to a game where I think I know where you're leaning, but we have the Las Vegas Raiders traveling to your guy, Justin Herbert Stadium. New head coach Jim Harbaugh making his debut with the Chargers. Laraib, does he leave with a W?
Of course he does, Lewis. He's established an identity here with this Chargers organization, and they have a clear plan of what they're going to do, and that's going to be pound the damn ball. Even with my guy Justin Herbert back there under center, I think they're just going to be pushing it down their throat with J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards until eventually both of them are on IR halfway through the season. But in week 1 against this Raiders team with Aiden O'Connell on the other side, or excuse me, Gardner Minshew on the other side, I think this is going to be a close game. I'm a huge Gardner Minshew fan. I don't know why people hate on him so much. I believe he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. He deserves to be. But in this one, traveling to LA with those rowdy fans in Los Angeles, I think the Chargers win 20-17.
Those rowdy fans in Las Vegas are going to be wearing black and silver. I hope you realize that, Laraib. And I love Jim Harbaugh. I love what he's about. Just Mr. Football himself. But this Raiders team, man, like you said, I think Gardner Minshew is a solid quarterback. And you have Max Crosby, you have Devontae Adams, Zamir White. Shouldn't be picked in the 3rd round of anyone's fantasy draft. I don't know who would do that. But I like the overall build that this Raiders team is going for. I really like their defense this year. And I think they go into LA with the majority fans wearing that black and silver. And they go ahead and get their doors blown off by the Los Angeles Chargers. And Justin Herbert making a statement in week 1. Give me the Chargers 31 to Raiders 16. I think it's going to be a blowout. Gardner Minshew isn't doing nothing against that defense, Laraib. But let's go ahead and go to your team. Your team. The Seattle
How many
Seahawks.
teams I got?
Your team. I can't keep track nowadays. Seattle Seahawks -6 against the Broncos, Laraib. I'll start this one off. I think the Seahawks are one of the most slept on teams this entire season. And I just really like what they're able to do defensively. You bring in Byron Murphy. I just like the talent, Devon Witherspoon in the backfield. And offensively, Geno Smith had a bad year, but he will bounce back. He will right back. Give me the Seahawks in this game. I'm going Seattle 38 to Denver 21.
And I have to agree with you, Lewis. I think, just like I mentioned with the Chargers, when you bring in a guy like Jim Harbaugh to establish an identity, I think that's the same thing Mike McDonald is doing over there in Seattle. I was the biggest Pete Carroll fan, even when people are clamoring for him to lose his job the last 4 years. I still thought he could have been the head coach of this team. But as someone who was so defensive minded as he was, and the way our defense was playing, it was clear it was time for a culture reset / change. And I bring in that guy, Mike McDonald, and I think he's going to be that dude. And this defense, Lewis, is going to play to the caliber that I was expecting them to play with the pieces that they have on that side of the ball. And I think this is going to be a huge year for the Seahawks, maybe a 10-win season for the Seahawks. But I'm going to agree with you. They just knocked the doors off this Broncos team, who's still going to be getting adjusted with Bo Nix at quarterback. Give me the Seahawks 27-14.
Right. I mean, asking Bo Nix week 1 to go to the 12th man in Seattle is no easy task for any quarterback, necessarily a rookie quarterback going into that building. So we'll see how that goes. But let's go ahead and move on, Laraib, to our final 3:00 game. We have the Washington Commanders traveling to Tampa to face the Buccaneers, Laraib. I think this is going to be a super high-flying scoring game. Over-under is only set at 43.5. But both these defenses, I really don't love that much, especially on their fronts. Just not a lot of guys to root for, but exciting weapons on the outside, new exciting quarterbacks who have put up points in the past. I like Tampa to pull this one out, even though I love me some JD5. I think Tampa wins this game. I think it's going to be the highest scoring game of the week, 45-38. I think Tampa pulls it out in an awesome week 1 game.
Holy points. I'm going to go a little bit lower scoring than you, but I'm still going to pick the same team. I think the Bucks. I honestly don't know what to feel about either of these teams, right? Dan Quinn comes in as a head coach of the Commanders, and besides them drafting Jaden Daniels, you don't really get like a vibe of what's going on. Same thing with this Bucks team. You lose Dave Canales, keep Todd Bowles as your head coach, and then
Wow.
we're kind of just like stuck in this limbo phase of both these teams. So I'm gonna say the Bucks pull it out. I just like the weapons a little bit more on offense. Rashad White, fantasy sleeper from last year, see what he can do this year. I like the Bucks 30 or 26-23.
Oh, I forgot you said Rashad White. I wipe the drool off my face. All right, well, yeah, I think this is going to be a really exciting game for Rob. Sorry, the Rashad White thing threw me off. And that'll do it for our games of week 1. We still have our locks, upsets, and best bets of the week, Laraib. So I'll go ahead start with you. Who is your upset of the week?
My upset of the week is going to be the Los Angeles Rams. A couple of teams I could have picked for this one, but I think Matthew Stafford has a bone to pick with those Detroit fans after they were booing him last year in the playoffs. I think he comes out with Puka, Kyron Williams, and of course, Cooper, White Jesus Cup, and they ball out over there in Detroit and they win that game as my upset of the week.
Yeah, Laura, my upset of the week is going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers, a team that is just constantly in the mix, constantly aggressive. You know that defense, especially week 1, healthy TJ Watt going to Atlanta to face Kirk Cousins coming off an injury, new coach, new offensive coordinator. There's just so much to figure out with this Atlanta team where Mike Tomlin and the Steelers machine is going to go in there and do what they do, barely win, and disappoint their fans later in the season, including myself. But I am going with the Steelers as my upset of the week, Laurent.
All that galaxy gas from those factories in Atlanta is going to drive those Steelers players insane. I mean, that's all I can tell you.
What's your lock of the week, Laurent?
My lock of the week has to be the Miami Dolphins at home, only -3. Maybe I'm looking into this too much, but I just think Mike McDaniel, week 1, just keeps on adding stuff to his scheme. They're going to win this game by a bunch of points.
Yeah, my lock of the week, Laurent, it's the New Orleans Saints. I always love to hedge my bets, but this is one that I'm saying, if you are a team, just not even to be respected, just a team, just a football team that's going to have goals this year, you have to win this game against the Carolina Panthers week 1. So I am making them my lock, and I swear to God, if they don't pull through. But anyway, let's go ahead and I'll start with my best bet of the week. I talked about it in the last game we talked about, but I have the Commanders and the Buccaneers game. The over-under's only at 43.5. Jaden Daniels is going to put up points in this game, and likewise, Tampa and Baker will as well. In Florida, it's hot outside. There's going to be a lot of missed tackles, a lot of shenanigans going on. This is an easy over for me, Laura.
That's a really good pick, Lewis. And for mine, I'm just going to double dip on the Miami Dolphins. Like I said, -3. Field goal game. Are you kidding me? Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane, Jonnu Smith.
3.5.
They're going to be out there and they're going to be balling. 3.5 still too low. I would take this. I would take this at 7.5, to be honest. They're going to blow the doors off this Jacksonville Jaguars defense, even with Jonathan Allen Hines over there on the
Jonathan Hines Allen.
Whatever his name is, he can't stop Tua.
Joshua Hines Allen, excuse me.
You can't stop Tua. Hot Tua, son. Let's go, Dolphins.
And score on that thing. All right, well, Rob, that's going to do it for our week 1 predictions. What an electric episode, and what an electric week 1 that we are going to be looking forward to. If you have made it this far in the video, please make sure you comment and whatever you liked, whatever you disliked. If you want to see new things, we'll be back here after week 1 to do a full week 1 breakdown and review, and we'll be back posting on Thursday this episode. We'll see how we're feeling. And we'll be back next week with our predictions as well, Laraib. But thank you so much for joining us today. It's always been a pleasure. Laraib, you got anything before we head out?
No, I think that's the First and Goal podcast signing off.
Peace.